Good afternoon. Welcome to this recording of the Race to Rebuilding Trust and Community Notice of Funding Availability Logic Models Workshop in partnership with Arlington, Virginia County Government and the United Way of the National Capital Area. We're looking forward to presenting this information to you today. Here is a quick overview of the team behind this particular technical assistance meeting that took place on November 15th, 2023, in support of the NOFA's development. This particular recording will be led by Scott Mengebeer, Director of Research Evaluation, United Way of the National Capital Area, and we'll review the materials that were presented during this workshop to help support community-based organizations and service providers in Arlington County with additional information in developing a logic model in support of their proposal for the Notice of Funding Availability. On today's agenda, as we'll cover through these materials, is that we will first start by looking at what the NOFA requires and how it is listed out in the Notice of Funding Availability, but also how it will be scored, right? So what resources are available, as well as how the rubric will be determining the strength of the logic model in evaluation questions in relation to its proposal. After that, we'll quickly touch base on logic model fundamentals, some essential components and concepts that guide the development of your logic model, and then review the sample and template that are available to you as well. Last night was the work session and where their question and answers were provided. Those are integrated into the frequently asked questions document, which should be available to you as a resource as well. NOFA requirements. So for the logic model, as we go to develop the logic model, let's take a look at what the actual Notice of Funding Availability has listed out. In section 4 under evaluation, it requests that you complete the logic model using a template that's included in the appendix and reference the definitions, as you can see here, when completing the logic model. These components here listed below are all definitions of what are the components of a typical logic model and can be found in the appendix as well. Obviously, the idea is to incorporate as much detail and information as would be appropriate to give a clear vision of the programs, services, and intended impact or objectives that you're seeking to achieve with this program, and how it would provide a service to the community. The idea here is that overall, a logic model is a visual representation of your program services on paper and should be able to clearly illustrate the relationship between the resources that you're bringing to bear with the program. So that is to say around the inputs, and how those resources will then develop into a set of activities which will relate back to positive change for the community. And this can be measured through the outputs, outcomes, and impact that go to serve the program goal. All of these different definitions and terms we'll kind of go through throughout this particular example, but I wanted to kind of provide as just a sort of a clear example or correlation, if you'll forgive the analogy, of baking a cake. The idea is that if your objective is to bake a cake, and that is what you're seeking to achieve, you need to think through all the different components that come with it, right? In terms of what are you going to need to bake the cake, including the ingredients, the tools and materials you'll need, but also to kind of consider who will be benefiting from this cake. Who are you baking the cake for, if you will? And then, of course, not to forget that you are a component as well as a person who is providing and baking the cake. So all of those parts and components will be considered as part of your inputs. And then, of course, the activities extends into speak about the actions you take in order to combine those ingredients along with heat in order to bake the cake. And of course, the direct result of that is that through your efforts, you will have a cake that is created, and that outcome that then translates into the outcome of the benefit and the pleasure that's taken from eating the cake and consuming the cake and sharing with others. So all of these different components need to go into your overall visual plan of either baking a cake or providing a community service as part of this request for proposals. And we will provide you with an abundance of tools and resources to help make this possible. Among them, as you can see here, are several examples that are included in the request for proposals documents and resources. Within the NOFA itself, you have a example of resources that are available to you, including SMART goals that are developed through either Mind Tools or the University of California, which provide those resources on describing what is the SMART goal and how you can identify and define your SMART goals. The logic models itself, there's two amazing resources there. The Management Library provides one, and Social Impact Architects. Both of those are included within the NOFA itself and link those resources to you to be able to access them and provide you with additional information. Secondly, within the NOFA itself, in the appendix, you will be able to find a sample logic model that's been completed for your access and review to sort of understand sort of what a completed logic model would look like. And of course, there is the within the portal to submit your proposal, there are additional templates that you can access both for the logic model and the budget template, as well as the staff and board template. So that way there's no need to sort of reinvent the wheel. These resources have been developed and placed to your access so that you could benefit from being able to prepare these materials and access them in preparation for your proposal submission. Now, switching over to how the logic model will be scored. Here you can see an example of what the rubric, which is also included in the NOFA, in the appendix of the NOFA, you can access this and take a look at it. There you'll see on the left-hand side the questions that will be posed as part of your proposal. And each one of those have a corresponding score as to evaluate the response and the materials presented in response to those questions. I'll take you through each one of them, but obviously from here you would want to take from each question and then orient yourself towards the far right here to the highest possible score and try to align your response with these particular criteria so as to obtain the highest possible score within your proposal. First and foremost is that we're asking you to complete a logic model. And that template is available to you on the platform and in the appendix. And of course, when you are being scored for that logic model, there will be 1 point, 2 points, and 3 points, 3 points being the most excellent one. That would be consisting of completing your logic model. Do you have all the essential components that were listed out as part of the question? Do you include more than one SMART goal? Now, those SMART goals can be as part of the impact and goal statement column on the far right of your logic model, which I'll point out to in just a moment here. But including at least one or more than one is going to score you some points. Including more than one SMART goal will show that there's multiple goals or objectives that you're seeking to achieve with your community and through that program. Illustrating how all of the different activities support the achievement of that goal makes for a more robust logic model and therefore a stronger proposal. If each of those SMART goals then have corresponding inputs, activities, outputs, and outcomes, and that relationship is clear and logical, then that will make for a very strong logic model. And as you can see here in the little green box, this is the differentiator between what makes it for a good response and an excellent response. And this one is to say that there is a detailed and logical connection between each goal and its corresponding inputs, activities, outputs, and outcomes. Now, once you have the logic model, the idea is that this is going to be able to show the visual relationship between the different components of your program. Now, obviously, the data collection piece of this is going to be an integral part of how you demonstrate how the components and the relationship of the logic model work. So it is one thing to basically illustrate how your program will work. It is another matter to be able to demonstrate that through the collection of data and performance measurement. Both of them are closely interrelated, and so you'll see that thinking through how you plan to collect data to track and monitor the performance of your program so that you can basically understand how well you're doing it and make the necessary changes to improve the quality and efficiency of your services over time is going to be a part of the evaluation process. And that will be closely related to what your logic model is, because that is an ideal representation of your program being implemented. So how will you collect data on your programming and or general operations? The answer should include in detail a description of the data collection process, include at least one specific method of data collection, as well as describing in detail how the organization will collect the methods of data collection. And of course, if you can see that the data collection methods are connected to the SMART goal, if you're able to help make it clear in your narrative of your proposal that the data collection methods are aligned with each of the SMART goals so that there is a clear relationship between how you plan to achieve your SMART goals and then how you plan to measure those SMART goals, will make for a very strong proposal. As well as that you are doing your data collection relationship is how will this data that you collect be used to evaluate the overall outputs and outcomes? How will the SMART goals being achieved translate to positive change and benefits for the community members that you are serving? So similarly here is that you're describing in detail how the data will be used to evaluate both your outputs, which is your immediate results, and the outcomes, which is the lasting benefits that those outputs provide for the community, as well as that as you can see that they are related back to the data collection methods, and of course that the data will be used to evaluate all outputs and outcomes listed in the logic model. So there is an alignment between what is listed in the logic model, the data collection methods that you plan to employ for each of those SMART goals, as well as how those data collection methods will be then used to evaluate the outputs and outcomes, or just the degree to which you have achieved your outputs and outcomes that are listed within the logic model. Okay, so now that we've kind of reviewed what the NOFA is requesting in terms of logic models and how that will be then scored, we just want to kind of quickly run through what are the fundamentals you would see with the logic models overall. When we talk about logic models, they are, again, an idea, a way of guiding a process and helping describe that process to others. Going back to my earlier analogy of baking a cake, if one was new to the idea of baking a cake, for example, following a recipe is a guide of different materials, steps, and outcomes and outputs that you're going to be anticipating that you'll get from being able to follow that. And that is exactly what a logic model is seeking out to achieve. The roadmap, it provides a roadmap even for a complex human services program that this NOFA is requesting for your proposals. This roadmap will give you the basic elements and fundamentals of what you're seeking to achieve. So what our recommendation is that you consider these three key components as you're starting to think through how you would design your logic model. On the far left is really identifying who is going to be a big, both the beneficiary and the provider of your program, right? So who is the population that you are serving and who will be delivering the services? With that identified, you'll be able to sort of enumerate what are the different ingredients, going back to our analogy here, that you'll need to include in order to be able to provide all of those different components. Now, that is to say that now that I've identified that I will be providing a service to my beneficiary, so if I am the baker, I will be baking a cake for my friends and family. then I will need to identify all those different materials that I would make sure that I'd be able to provide those services to them. And those can be financial, material, the concept of how much time it would take for us to do that. All of those different components would kind of come into play there. Now, I'm going to skip over the middle box and go straight over to the what, because once you've identified who you are trying to serve and you identify what you're trying to accomplish, so that is to say, what it was the intention of your program, what change or benefits will your program be able to deliver, what is that result and why is it important? Once those two boxes are sort of identified and defined, then it becomes much easier to make a relationship of the how, or set of activities in the middle here that make the relationship between, okay, here's who I plan to serve and who and how I will serve them, but also here's what we're going to be trying to accomplish. So that way, all those activities that you will list out as part of your activities and outputs will be kind of captured in here and sort of saying, this is how this service delivery will create that positive change, and how we will go about monitoring and measuring those activities to show services are going to be fulfilling the objectives or goals that you're trying to say. So all of these three components here, we're going to take just to bring the most fundamental, rudimentary parts of what a logic model development is, and we're going to map those onto the template. Before we do that, just want to kind of give you an idea that there are excellent resources available to you. This is just one way of being able to present this information. If you look at within the NOFA proposal, there's the management library, which has a very basic, structure to developing a logic model, which is perfectly appropriate for your proposal. And if you're looking for something that will, provide you with more inspiration or different elements of each component so that it could help you think through all the different aspects of what you would want to include in your logic model, the social impact architects have developed a really robust resource to be able to leverage. And of course, within the proposal itself, we have the template and sample that you'll be able to look at as well. Okay, turning to the sample and template, as I mentioned, we have the who, how, what. The who, how, what is overlaid here onto the template that we've developed for you. And you can see here how the different components would be captured within a traditional logic model. First, within the program objective, that's your overall SMART goal that you're trying to achieve for the overall program. Now, if you say that I am trying to fulfill just one objective and one objective only, which is, say, for example, to reduce food insecurity in the community, then listing that SMART goal at the top is a great idea. Now, if your program, as many programs are providing multiple services to respond to a common need, which is to say that, for example, I serve a specific population to reduce food insecurity and to ensure that they have affordable housing, well, you would want to list those particular SMART goals over here on the right, under the impacts and goals column, and then make sure that the way your program objective is more of an umbrella service, an umbrella statement that captures all of the impacts and goals that are listed underneath. So for example, you say that our program focuses on serving the LGBTQIA population with the sufficient resources to ensure that they have affordable housing and our food secure, right? So those are just one potential example of how you would be able to write out an overarching program objective that would capture all the impacts and goals that are listed here on the right side of the program. The who, of course, fits in over here, where you would be able to list out not only the beneficiaries, so the target populations that you're aiming to serve, but also all the different stakeholder groups that may be involved or play a pivotal role in being able to support the success of this program, right? And we'll look at that through the sample in just a moment. Of course, in here in the middle, we have the activities and the outputs. These two columns are actually kind of paired together because obviously any of the activities that you integrate into the logic model will have a corresponding output, right? So by providing food services to a population, that population will receive food services, right? And those that will then translate into a lasting benefit, which we find in our outcomes and impacts and goals. So these are all the different components that we would be able to integrate into a logic model, as well as, ensuring that we don't forget that we need to at least identify how we will be able to collect and store data that's related to all of the different components within this logic model, so as to be able to best demonstrate the impacts and goals have been achieved. Showing what this means in terms of a real life example. In the sample logic model that we've created, we have identified a program that says school students and families what we're seeking to achieve with them is to reduce and prevent ACEs. The way that we intend to do so is to deliver a trauma-informed intervention. So you have the who, the how, and the what all in one statement. This is the overarching statement, that within that there are a number of different goals that are that we're seeking to achieve. All right, so with that, we are going to take a look at how this is actually broken down. As you can see here on the left, we have the different stakeholder groups, both the beneficiaries and those who are delivering the work, the beneficiaries being school students and their families. The folks who will be delivering the work include a combination of social workers, mental health counselors, and school administrators. Obviously, school administrators are a key component in being able to, are a key component of the environment in which school students and families are existing, as well as being connected to social workers and mental health counselors, and play a pivotal role in all of this. Additionally, you see here on the right side that the outcomes and impacts and goals that we're seeking to achieve in reducing and preventing adverse childhood experiences is that we have increased knowledge, education, and awareness to enact positive behavior change, improved attendance and sense of belonging, as well as decrease mental distress. So oftentimes the outcomes and impacts and goals will be presented in such a way that you are going to see an increase in protective factors and a decrease in risk factors. And here in the middle, as you can see with the how, the activities themselves correlate to what the activity would be related back to either the beneficiary or the person who's delivering it. So for the school students and their families, at the core of this program is a case management that the social workers will develop service plans in conjunction with them. And hopefully some of them will participate in therapeutic services with the mental health counselors. And of course, school administrators being a key stakeholder group within this program will also be connected to the program in helping disseminate information and deepen understanding of this program and its objective through family engagement and outreach. Now, you can see there's a corresponding number to this. This is just to quickly demonstrate that hopefully 100 students and families will receive these particular services. Therefore, 100 service plans will be developed. And that means that as far as an output, 100 service plans will be delivered. And that if there are, a cohort of therapy sessions that take place over an 8-week span, for example, then that means that 8 therapy sessions will be delivered. So all of these different sort of components will show a clear relationship between who is actually doing the work or receiving those services, what those services will entail, and then what that translates in terms of outputs, that the scope and scale of those outputs will have a net positive effect on the outcomes and impacts and goals that are related back to your program. Now, that was just a simplified version of what you see in front of you. This is to show you that there is a robust way of demonstrating in clear detail around what type of activities will be conducted and what time frame in which they would be conducted through, how many outputs, specifically quantifying those outputs to sort of say that this is what we can anticipate will lead to that positive effect or change on the beneficiaries, right? And so to say is that you have a number of different stakeholder groups who will all be involved in making sure that students and families are connected to those services, that they will complete those intakes and build out those service plans and participate in the therapeutic services, but also that they will also be connected to other outreach and engagement services through the school administrators. And that in completing all of these different activities, we can anticipate that we will achieve these particular parts of the outcomes, which are listed as increase in awareness and understanding, so as to facilitate positive behavioral change and get connected to additional resources that could benefit both the students and the families. And that with that, this will lead to lasting change in terms of what's listed under the impacts and goals. Again, provided in such a way to say that, look, it is more likely that the students and families will be in a better position to avoid and diminish the impact of adverse childhood experiences, but also improve their social emotional behavior and their connection to both their families and schools as a part of that. Now, there's a lot of ways to provide this. Again, this is just one way of sort of organizing a logic model, but it does provide quite a bit of structure in order to how you want to present the information. As you can see here, one way of saying is that on the left, you have all the things that you're bringing and that you can control. And here to the program. So this is, who we plan to bring and what we plan to do. And of course, this is what would be the ideal outcome of those things. So all the different outputs, outcomes, and impacts and goals that would achieve it. You can see that here, making that bridge from the activities to the outputs really makes that connection between here's the things that we're bringing to put into this program, and here's what we're anticipating and expecting to come out of it. Additionally, there's a different way to say to look at it, is that each one of these rows is corresponding to what that stakeholder group, so the who and the how, will correspond to that specific set of activities and outcomes. So it's a great way to be able to structure it to say that if the social worker is able to complete these particular activities, here's what we anticipate in terms of not only the outputs, but we'll have a direct relationship on those particular outcomes and impacts and goals. This is just one way of doing it. There's many ways of structuring this, but this is a very structured way in how that you can build out your logic model. And then one key thing here is to be sure that you're able to demonstrate the relationship between those different components, that starting with the activities, you're able to move from one section to the other and show that there is a logical connection from the activities through the outputs into the outcomes. All right, so this is an overview of the logic model work session that was provided. There's an additional enormous amount of resources as deliberated before, and we welcome you to explore those resources and send any questions that you might have to the email address listed on the NOFA proposals. Thank you for your time and appreciate your participation and submission of the proposal in service of Arlington County. So thank you very much.